Hey, aloha, and welcome to Stan the Energy Man here on ThinkTech Hawaii. Stan Osserman coming to you live and direct and on time almost from Kailua, Hawaii. And boy, it's been really, really, really raining a lot here in Hawaii. We had flooding and everything all over the islands, lost power for part of the night. So it's been a pretty exciting week so far. And so to mellow things out, my guest today is, I don't want to say he's old, but he's probably one of the original guest that I had on Stan the Energy Man 5 years ago, or almost 6 years ago now. Chris McWhinney from Millennium Reign Energy. I think that's his company name now. He may have updated it, and he's got a couple other companies out there. But Chris's equipment, I think we had serial number 2 and 3 of his one of his 2 kilogram a day stations, and one of them is still running out at Hickam. The other one we just have in storage right now, but one of them is running out at Hickam still. We still use it after all these years, and it's been great equipment. And some of the other services, military services that have seen it, have decided they want to use that equipment too, because it's really very straightforward and it's really reliable, and we really like it. So, Chris McWhinney, welcome to the show today. I appreciate you coming on.
Hey, Stan, thanks for having me. Appreciate being on.
Yeah, you know, you can give us a little bit, maybe some of the folks haven't seen you before, a little bit of background on yourself, and then Millennium Reign, and then kind of update us on where you've been the last couple of years, and then we'll look at some of your gear.
Sure. Well, my name's Chris McWhinney. I'm CEO and founder of Millennium Reign Energy, and we're in Dayton, Ohio. We have been building hydrogen fueling infrastructure for a good while now. Started in my garage in 2004 and made our first sale in 2008. Opened our business at where we have a factory in 2013. We purchased that building, which is 40,000 square feet, and paid cash for it, and so has no debt in 2015. And we've been building equipment out of there. We spent 3.5 years working with CSA Group to receive certificates of attestation on our scalable hydrogen fueling appliances to IR 3-18. And then we also got 5 sizes of electrolyzers with certificates of attestation to IR 4-14. It's basically stating that we're allowed to display their CSA mark on our products, and that signifies that we meet that specific standard that we wrote, basically, because it's called an interim requirement, because at the time there was nothing that you could actually package together like that and use. So it's really interesting. We were able to get the models, model 100, 102, 104, and 200, and model 300 all listed as an appliance. So we were able to get a lot easier to get permits, and in some cases not even having to get a permit, depending on the authority having jurisdiction. And so we've done really well with those products. And as you know, we've always been in the train of thought that you should start small with your hydrogen infrastructure and grow big and try to dynamically match your supply and your demand.
Yeah.
And
Hey, Chris,
still,
let me interrupt a second and just make sure everybody understands that how important this is, because a lot of people don't realize, but when you have an electrical appliance of any kind, unless it's been certified by like Underwriters Laboratory or some certification process, it's really tough to get into the market and do anything. And a lot of times people think that if all the components are certified, then the entire appliance is certified, and that's not true either. The
right.
appliance itself has to be certified with all the components working together to meet the right criteria. So, I think you kind of went through it really quick, I know, because of time, but I really wanted to emphasize that, when you talk about getting your equipment certified and having a certificate of attestation, and it being considered an appliance is really, really a game changer in the industry. And you might want to just, kind of expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, well, we spent a lot of time. We spent 3.5 years and over $1.5 million to try to get to that position of products because we felt like that was going to be a difference maker. And it was important to expansion of hydrogen infrastructure that it's able to be deployed quickly. And so the other thing that it does, though, is that it dramatically reduces the cost of the product when you have to follow by design a factory plan of production. So this is a production product that way, and everything's the same every time. And so you can get to your supply chain works better, economies of scale for purchasing power and all that kind of stuff works better when you get into production of 25 systems at a time. And so reducing the cost to hydrogen infrastructure is really important, and that's what we've been able to effectively do. So we can provide that.
You talked about starting small and going big. Could you kind of describe for the viewers um, the difference between your company and say some of the larger electrolyzer makers, and in terms of for them to get their equipment to where it's at right now, they've probably invested tens of millions of dollars, and it's at scale, but really it drives the price of their equipment much higher than starting small, like you say, and being able to scale up. Most people can't afford $5 million for a refueling system for hydrogen, but some of yours are closer to $100,000 instead of 4 or 5 million. So could you kind of describe that concept of your small to big?
Yeah, so I really love what California did because the state of California was really generous in opening up their purse to provide hydrogen fueling infrastructure. But they pay for about 80% of those stations, and it costs $3 to $4 million. And a lot of times when they put up a new station, there may be 10 or 20 cars in the area. So it's really difficult to pencil out that you can spend $3 million and only fuel 10 or 20 cars. It might be 3 to 4 years before a station ever gets enough cars to where it can sell all the fuel that it can actually dispense every day to where it can actually make money. And some of those companies that have done that have announced in meetings where they have to do at least 500 kilograms a day of dispensing in order to make the product pay off. And so that would be 200 to 200 cars a day fueling, and many dispenser ports. So our approach is a lot different, where you go into an area that may have only 1 or 2 cars, or maybe even none, and you bring in the car later. And so that product only costs, in blocks of 25 at a time, we can get it down to like $115,000, and that would provide 4 kilograms a day and could handle 2 to 3 cars a week. And so, but it's only going to fill them half full. And then as they grow, as that market grows, take the small product out, you put a larger product in, which we have 3 scalable models already set up and approved. And you bring the next biggest one in, you take that one that got you that position open, and you move it to a new location so that you can provide a new opening for new cars to come and fill. And then meanwhile, your station that you replaced with a bigger one can take on more vehicles, and you grow it step by step by step. So that's what we mean by when we say start small and grow big. But I don't want us to be misunderstood that we don't think you should get big, because that's part of what we're going to introduce today is larger products that we've developed now that can take it to the next level.
Yeah, but the idea there then is to basically grow with your demand, and not try and build a station that can meet a demand for 5 years from now or 3 years from now, and never turn a profit until 5 years from now or whatever, because you got to wait for the demand to catch up. You can actually build a station at a reasonable cost for a smaller demand, and then as your demand grows, you can increase and take that other station and move it to start a new demand signal somewhere else and start growing that one, and you can just keep growing the stations one at a time, bigger and bigger until they meet the demand that's there. Correct?
That's right. That's exactly right. And the other thing is that you're not dependent on governments to supply the cushion that you need to make it work. So with our products, you can actually install them and make a return on investment, you know, in the first year. So without government subsidies.
I think what's helping now in the industry is, interest rates are so low that a lot of people have money to invest and they don't want to put it in a traditional bank account or something really conservative. They're looking for higher return. And so there's a lot of people out there willing to invest in the kind of equipment like you have, because they know if they can get it into the marketplace and get it growing, they can actually make a better return on their investment than if they're just investing in a savings account or some other traditional, savings vehicle. Correct?
Right. So, you know, everyone's heard the old adage of location, location, location. And this is locations, locations, locations. You know, I think that whoever's going to win the hydrogen infrastructure game is going to have more locations than anyone else. It stands to reason if you know, our mission as a company is to have 30,000 locations open in the next 20 years. And that'll be 18% of the current fueling station market on the mainland USA. And so if you have that many locations where you can dispense hydrogen, you're going to probably sell more than most other companies as well. And that's where ultimately the return is to make recurring revenue off of selling the gas. The equipment is just a way to establish the locations and get them out there quicker and open up territories that otherwise wouldn't even be thought of being opened yet because they didn't think there were any cars available at that time.
Okay. Well, can we start taking a look at some of your equipment, and you can describe, what's going on, how you've grown from your 100 series and where you're at now?
Yeah, so if we can see the first slide, this is where we started when we started thinking about going to the next level after we developed our first three sizes of scalable hydrogen fueling appliance. We're like, okay, we're going to need a much bigger electrolyzer. The biggest electrolyzer we had prior to this was only 12 kilograms a day. And it was our Model 342 that people can see on our website. So with this one that's was on the screen, I don't think it's on there now. Need to bring that back.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah. So this is our M4. It's M4 because it's our mega stack, and there's 4 of them in one 10-foot shipping container. The shipping container, you can go ahead and go on to the next slide. We always start with a 3D model, and then we try to, go from there. So go on to the next image. And so this is inside after we actually built it from that 3D model, and we spent about 2.5 years, maybe 3, developing these stacks. These are very large stacks. They're 4 times bigger than the stacks that we normally had been building. So this will do 64 kilograms a day, and it has the purification system and all the automation and the water purification system for the input water and the purification for the hydrogen, all inside this one container. So when it comes out, it's coming out purified hydrogen ready to go into your compressor and your storage. The next slide, this is a wider look at the same thing. You can see on the right and the left, there's actually 2 32 kilogram a day electrolyzers in there. So you can run one or just the other, or you can run them both at the same time. And the feed line of hydrogen is blended together after a check valve so they stay as independent and operate as independent systems. Go ahead and go to the next
So
slide.
that even gives you some redundancy then as well.
That's right. Next slide.
Very
So
good.
this is the one of the keys to making sure that you have a safe apparatuses, that you want to make sure that all your high voltage and electronic components are on the outside and they're not in the inside where the hydrogen is produced. And so this is what we've done by reconstructing, building cabinetry into and welding it into the shipping container. We're able to have both power supplies that drive both set of stacks and the power supplies that drive the cooling system and the automation and control and the programmable controllers for both systems, all on the outside, and there are cabinets, ventilated cabinets that basically on the backside it's solid, so it can't be in the same environment as the hydrogen. Go ahead to the next slide, please. So we also, since these are huge stacks, we designed it so that the side doors will open so that you can have access to the stacks on the side if you need to take them out or replace them or something like that, because as you can see from the other pictures earlier, it'd be difficult to get them out the middle. So both sides open up and then they close up. So it has its own heating system on it, so it can be used in a cold weather environment when those doors are closed. So, and those doors are also ventilated. So go on to the next slide. So I don't know if you usually take a break, Stan, but this would be a good time to take it.
Okay. I tell you what, we can do that. We can take a quick break here and give some of our sponsors a chance to shine, and then we'll come back with Chris McWhinney and look at some of his dispenser units and production units that he's got out on the street now. Hey, welcome back to Stan the Energy Man. Stan Osserman, Chris McWhinney, and my rooster in the background in case you haven't heard it. We're trying to keep him quiet. I threw him some bread and stuff, but he's still making noise. But Chris was telling us about some of his equipment, and the unit he was originally showing us fit inside of a 10-foot by 10-foot by 10-foot cube, basically a connex, as we called it in the military. And it can deploy and produce, what was it, 64 kilograms a day, right?
Yes.
Okay. So now he was going to show us some of his more commercial looking dispensers and hydrogen stations. And I think that's the image we had coming up right before we went to break. So if Eric can bring that one back up.
Yeah, so, part of our plan is to start out by doing 35 MPA, and then when the time is right, you move into 70 MPA, so you can fill the car from, instead of being half full, it gets a full fill. This is our 70 MPA station. I've been fueling on a Toyota Mirai for about 5 months now, driving it back and forth to work on that particular station. It's really exciting. It has communications with the vehicle. It has controls to make sure that it prevents the vehicle from being over temped or over densitied or over pressured. It has its own compressor on it. It's called a CSD unit, compress, store, and dispense. And it's designed to come in as a full package and sit down and hook up to something you already have in position and take you from doing 5,000 PSI fills to 10,000 PSI fills. So this is a product that we're going to be taking it through the same type of CSA process to get a certificate of attestation on it. And same way with the last unit, the M4 electrolyzer. These are products now that are done and they're ready for market. And we would have to get them individually, just like everybody else, permitted when they go in, so we can use them now, even though they're not like that. But we're striving to get the same type of certificates of attestation for them as we are for the products we already have. So that 10,000 PSI station is going to be a really important piece, and it works great.
Great. Yeah, just for the audience too, there's 3,500 pounds per square, or actually 350 bar, which is 5,000 PSI, and 700 bar, which is 10,000 PSI. A lot of the cars use 10,000 PSI because they don't have as much space to store the hydrogen, so they compress it to a higher pressure. But a lot of the commercial vehicles only go to 5,000 PSI because they have more space to store their hydrogen. So whenever you pull up to a hydrogen station, a lot of times you'll see 35 or 70 dispensers. That's kind of like low test and high test, except instead of octane, it's pressure. It's low pressure or high pressure, so that people can fill. If they have a commercial vehicle that only uses 5,000 PSI, they'll fill it up there. But if you have a regular car, you'd use a 10,000 PSI.
Right. So now that you've seen that we have a 10,000 PSI station and we have a 64 kilogram a day electrolyzer already produced and commercialized, both of those units you saw were produced and sold to customers. Now let's imagine taking both of those two things, a 64 kilogram a day electrolyzer that was in that 10-foot by 8-foot container, and then the 10,000 PSI fueling station. Let's go to the next page, on the next picture. This is the inside of that 10,000 PSI fueling station. So you can see it has 6 tanks there. We're actually adding one more on each side, so we'll have 4 on each side instead of 3 on each side in the next revision. And it has a compressor that takes the fuel from the 35 MPa station or the 5,000 PSI station and boosts it to 10,000 and actually 12,500 PSI and puts it in those tanks. And so the next picture, which this is not back to a 3D again, because we're going back to like we did in the beginning. You know, we showed you a 3D of the M4. This is going to be called an M470. So it's got the M4 in it. As you can see on the back right, there's 2 big stacks there, and there's 2 more on the other side. But then in the front of it, you can see the 4 red tanks on each side and the little compressor in there. There's actually 2 of them behind the white tanks. You can't see the other one. The thing on the top is actually a compressor. So that takes the hydrogen from the big stacks and bumps it to 7,500 PSI and puts it in the white tanks. And then the white tanks, the little compressors draw off of that and put it in the red tanks. And then you have a hydrogen station door there on the side. If you go to the next, there you can see the whole layout of the different from the opposite side. It has a catwalk on top so you can get to the compressor on top and not fall off the edge. And so this will sit in a 20-foot by 8-foot footprint and give you 64 kilograms a day of production and 60 kilograms of storage, 40 at 7,500 PSI and 20 at 12,500 PSI. And this will be able to fuel cars to 10,000 PSI back to back. I think this station will handle about 20 cars a day. And it would be the next level up from our Model 300. So the reason it's M470 is it's got the M4 electrolyzer in it, and it's got the 70 MPa station. So this is about a $750,000 station that we hope that we can get down in the $600,000 to $500,000 range in quantities of 25 to 30 at a time. So we've already bought those white tanks that are in there, and we've already built the stacks, and we've already built the 10,000 PSI unit. It's just a matter of raising the capital that we're in the process of doing right now, and putting that package together and building the first one.
So is it any coincidence that you're using standardized shipping containers like the 10-foot, the 20-foot, and the next size up, which you're not using it as a 40-foot, but these are all standard sizes that shipping companies, rail companies, and truck companies are used to transporting on their intermodal system. So
That's right.
so does that make your system even better because it's easier to move internationally and things like that?
That's right. It's just basically still a drop off, plug and play, and then it'll hook up and go anywhere. You don't have to disassemble it. You just load it on a normal carrier, and it can go on a ship and go overseas and lock into all of the corners like they do on regular shipping containers, because that's what it is. So that's what it's been designed to do.
Okay, Chris. Well, we got about 1 minute left, and I'd like to leave that one up to you to kind of wrap things up and give us your thoughts of where Millennium Reign's going in the future.
Well, first of all, I think it's important to note that the hydrogen industry's taken off like no one has ever seen it before. I've seen reports lately that there's over $300 billion worth of deals that are in pending mode, or being contracts being written or talked about in 32 different countries. I've seen, and I've calculated, the articles that I've read in the last year have been in the vicinity of 60 gigawatts worth of electrolyzers. And with the size that you just saw us, we're going to make large scale wind to hydrogen, utility scale hydrogen systems using that same stack that you saw there in our M4 class electrolyzer. And basically, instead of having four stacks, we'll have 10 stacks on one platform, and then 3 platforms will actually create eat a megawatt of power and put out 480 kilograms a day in a 24-hour day. So, that is our next leap. And so we have many projects that are requiring that size of electrolyzer, and we're excited about going into that area of business. And but just to give you an idea, it would take 1,800,000 of our electrolyzers at that single stack to equal the demand that's currently out there. And there's only like 15 companies that I can see in the world that make a megawatt class electrolyzer right now. So the demand is high, and we feel like we have a really bright future because of the demand and the quality of our product. So we're excited about the future, and we're really happy to have people like you and ThinkTech support us by giving us an opportunity to share with the world what's going on in our world.
Well, Chris, I've been sharing Millennium Reign with the world for over 5 years, and I'd like to take some credit for the geometric expansion of hydrogen in the world today here on ThinkTech and Stan Energy Man. So I want to thank you for being on today and bringing us up to date on Millennium Reign, and continued success and good luck with your endeavors.
Yeah, thank you very much, Stan. Great talking with you.
Thanks, Chris. And that's going to do it. Chris McWhinney coming to us live from Dayton, Ohio. Until next Tuesday, Stan the Energy Man signing off. Aloha.